Planning your Saturday night can be a bit of a bitch.
Saturday night is the loneliest night in the week.
Well, it doesn't have to be. Load up Toxic Radio every Saturday night for the heavy metal happy hour. With the one and only Fishman.
I know that, dude.
There will be interviews, ticket giveaways, a little bit of banter with Toxic Mike, and of course great metal from the 80s all the way through today. Starts at 7 p.m., runs until Fish says it's over.
Everyone get out!
Catch it only on Toxic Radio. Don't play it safe. Play it toxic. Hey, buddy. Raw. Hey, man, that's a sweet heavy metal happy hour t-shirt. Where'd you pick that up? Sweet. Yeah, and I also got a rockin' Toxic Radio hoodie and a Red Band Underground shirt. Dude, I'm gonna look so rockin' at the party tomorrow. Well, I think you look pretty now. Oh, wait, what? The Toxic Radio shop is a place to get all your Toxic Radio gear. Shirts, hoodies, stickers. Find it at toxicradio.net or on the app. Don't buy it safe. Buy it toxic. Hey, where are you going, man?
Enjoying all that Toxic Radio has to offer? Well, make sure you like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Be the first to find out about ticket giveaways, amazing guests, awesome contests, and Toxic Radio events. Just search Toxic Radio Live, all one word, and press that little button. Every time you do, someone here at Toxic Radio will get their wings.
Yay!
Well, not really.
Aww.
But we will get a warm, fuzzy feeling in our tummies. But then again, that just might be the beer. Anyway, like and follow us, and we will see you out there on the interwebs.
On the Week 7 Wire to Wire. I'm your host, Gene Walzak, and to my right is the man, the myth, the legend. Only one lost college football. Shally, Bill Shallcross, absolutely killing it. Remotely joining us this week, he's at home with family, is College Cottrell. Took his first L of the season, but, I mean, obviously, you're going to lose sooner or later. You ain't going undefeated all year. But we got an action-packed show today. We're going to go over the college football rankings, everything that's going on with that. BYU being 14 is a little insane. We're also going to go over, NBA free agency. We're gonna talk about the match. A little bit of Roy Jones, Mike Tyson, the joke of that fight, and NFL, obviously, our pick'em segment that we always do. But we're gonna start off with college football and everything that that college football rankings we thought would be with Cincinnati. We were talking about Cincinnati actually being ranked top 4, and they weren't. And they put a one-loss Clemson team over an undefeated Ohio State team. So it was absolutely very interesting to see that. I don't agree with the rankings, but I mean that's the committee. That's what they're going towards. But it said a lot about what's going to happen this upcoming season. So I'm going to start off with Bill. Bill, check in. Let me know what you thought about those rankings.
I think it's very telling. I think it's, with this season, so many teams having to cancel games and everybody's not going to play the same amount of games. You've non-conference schedules that were canceled. I think they're showing you that they're going to rely heavily on the eye test and who you've played. I would have Ohio State 3 and Clemson 4, but then putting Ohio State 4 behind Clemson, I think it's very telling. I think it's Clemson wins out, they're 100% in. That's, if you're a Notre Dame fan, Clemson being 3 is a good thing for you, because if you lose the rematch with Lawrence, I don't see how you drop out. And Alabama's going to stay 1. If they don't lose, they're 100% number 1. If their loss is in the championship game to a one-loss Florida team, they're still in. So
question I want to ask Cottrell. Cottrell, do you think there's any chance that Cincinnati or BYU, after seeing these rankings, have any chance of making a college football playoff? Like, what needs to happen?
So basically, what needs to happen is you're going to need Alabama to win out. You're going to need Notre Dame to win, and that's going to take care of everything. So it's not as far-fetched, actually, for Cincinnati to make the playoff, just because you got two SEC teams in Texas A&M and Florida at the 5 and 6 seed right now, and those two are going to settle themselves out, especially if because only one of them is going to make it to the championship game. So that's going to settle all that out there. And then with Notre Dame, Cincinnati has to be the biggest Notre Dame fans out there right now, just because if Notre Dame beats Clemson for the second time when they have Trevor Lawrence back, a 2-loss Clemson team, there's no way they're going to get into the playoff. And then, of course, they're going to have to rely on Ohio State to win, because if Ohio State loses a game too, that might end up messing up Cincinnati in the long run as well.
I actually disagree with that point. I think if Ohio State loses the game, an undefeated Cincinnati team could make it in over a one-loss Ohio State team.
I don't think.
Well, my thing is, if you have Ohio State, if they lose a game, say they lose like next week, or they lose to Michigan before the conference championship game, a one-loss Ohio State team, I believe, is still going to be, especially if they go up against an undefeated Northwestern team and they look really impressive that game. It's going to be tough, I feel like, for the committee to put in an undefeated Cincinnati team over Ohio State. It's going to be the same thing with like one-loss Alabama if they lose to Florida, or a one-loss Notre Dame. I think it's going to be the same thing.
If Ohio State has a one-loss, they're going to need help to get back in.
I don't think they're getting back in.
And again, I kind of jokingly said it after week one, after the way some of the games went. The Big Ten is not good this year, and Ohio State is by far the best team in the Big Ten.
Well, that's my lead-in question real quick, Bill. I'm going to ask you,
Okay.
Is there a way that Ohio State runs the table, goes undefeated, and doesn't make the college football playoff?
Possibly. And I don't know. I don't know if they would do it, but there's definitely a chance they do it. The way that happens is Clemson would have to beat Notre Dame. They're both going to have one loss. They're both going to be in. And Florida would have to beat Alabama. And at that point, it would be an undefeated Ohio State in a down Big Ten versus a Florida team with wins over Georgia and Alabama. And I think people,
So in that scenario, you're putting 4 one-loss teams over an undefeated Ohio State team.
In a normal year, I don't think it would happen that way. Okay. This year, I think it can, because like I said, you don't have enough to really fall back and compare all these teams. Like Oregon, for instance, Oregon can go 5-0. If they get anything canceled, like they've already said, you have to play at least 6 to even be eligible for it. They might not get in. Wisconsin canceled another game this week. Not that they're going to be involved in it, but if they would have been 5-0 sitting there, they weren't eligible to even get in. This year, like I said, they're going to, and you saw, again, the rankings prove it. They are judging by strictly what you do on the field right now. They're relying heavily on the eye test this year. And again, you're going to compare that your resumes are going to be, you're going to have Florida with 1 loss, Ohio State undefeated. Who played the better schedule? Who played the better teams? And unequivocally, I think it's Florida. But you do have to value Ohio State not losing. Like, I agree. I'm not downplaying that. But if there was a year it was going to happen, it would be this year.
So I completely disagree with you. I want to give Cottrell a chance to respond to that.
To be fair, though, the ACC, I think it's fair to say that the ACC this year is worse than the Big Ten, just because your top teams aren't the same. Like they normally are, like the powerhouses with Michigans and Penn State. You're definitely going to have better teams with Indiana, Wisconsin, and Northwestern, as opposed to the ACC right now, when it's literally just it's Miami by a long shot. But we saw what Clemson did to them, and it's Notre Dame, and then there's Clemson. I mean, so you have these other teams who are kind of
agreed.
That top 3, I disagree with you.
You can't even count Wisconsin. They just went to Northwestern and scored 7 points. They're not good.
Yeah,
Northwestern is an undefeated team. I can't say that they're not good because they lost to an undefeated Northwestern team that's eighth in the rankings this now.
This is what I've warned people about. You can't take stock in Wisconsin going to Michigan and beating Michigan this year. Normally, that's a big win. They were 2-0. They finally played a decent team, and they looked terrible. You had a freshman quarterback. You went to Northwestern. Northwestern always has sneaky good teams. We talked about it last week. We even talked about how this might happen. But they're not a juggernaut. Like, if you take the top 4 in the ACC.
Well, they're not, because their 3 previous wins outside their opening day win
correct
weren't good. They were all like one score games.
That's my point. So let's I think the most egregious 2 things on the playoff rankings this week is Northwestern being 8 and BYU being 14th. They're both insane to me. Like, that is you're way overvaluing a 2-1 Wisconsin. They played 3 games. You're overvaluing Wisconsin, and how you can have BYU, who's beat everybody by 30, being 14. Like, they have no shot. Like, they're like, I don't even know what you tell those kids now. Like, you're not playing for anything.
That might be a bad game for them this week.
It might be.
They said part of it too was their only like big win this year was Boise State, and Boise State was with their backup quarterback. So, because I was watching the committee, the selection show and everything, and they were saying that they really didn't value that win against Boise State, which would have normally been a good win, but because they had their backup quarterback, they didn't value it that much. And I just don't think that's fair, because you got, like you said, Northwestern is. I think Northwestern is a good team, and they've shown that they can be like a really good team going up against Wisconsin. And I mean, you say you don't put too much stock in Wisconsin, but outside of that Northwestern game, like against Michigan, I know they're not that good this year. Wisconsin just looked good in general.
They beat they didn't beat anybody. They beat a bad Michigan team. Who they play the first week?
I forget.
Illinois. Like, come on, man. Like,
okay. To that same token, though, who is besides Clemson with the backup quarterback? Who is Notre Dame beat? Who was Clemson beat? It's the same.
But again, you know what Clemson is. This is where the bias comes in, and to that point, I do agree with you. And again, they're just a powerhouse. I'm not saying Ohio State's not going to get in, but if there was ever a year to not, like any other year, if Ohio State's sitting there 12-0, Big Ten champion, undefeated, they're an absolute stone cold lock to get in.
I don't think there's a way in the world that the committee will leave an undefeated Ohio State team with the most exciting player in the country playing. And we're going to get into that game for a second. Ohio State played against Indiana, and I'm going to ask this question to both of you guys. Do you think that was a good win, or do you think it was a bad one? And I'll start, and I think it's a bad win. I know that sounds like, obviously they have to win, but I think it was a bad win for them. To beat that team by 7 points, I felt like that was your statement. Ohio State would be 2 or 3 if they made a statement over Indiana. I think part of the reason, and to your point about the eye test, that they're ranked 4 and not 3 is the fact that they were in a really, like, you have to remember, Indiana needed a bad call to beat Penn State, who doesn't have a win. We should be clear about that.
Yeah. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first? They're your boys, so if you want to go first, I'll let you go first. Or do you want to rebuttal?
So what
I'll
say about that? What I'll say about that is, one, I will say that it's a good win, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Just because of the fact that you were up big early. Well, not early. It was, second half. You're up 35-7, and you could just tell that they let their foot off the throttle. Like, and it's fair to say that Indiana, they were definitely playing hard. They dug in deep, and they were trying to get themselves back into the game, and they had a shot to tie the game, late in the fourth quarter. But at the end of the day, I think it's important for a team, a championship team, to have these kinds of games, just because it shows you what you can and can't do in the future. So I think Ryan Day is going to really probably harp on in practice, like, we can't take our foot off the throttle, and we have to go 100% all the time, no matter who we're going up against, like, because the game can really change that fast. And I really don't like how much people are discrediting that Indiana team. Like, I understand that they only beat Penn State, late score at the end of the game. But the thing is that it's any given Saturday, especially in college football. These are conference games. It's going to be tough games. It's the same thing with how Michigan State beat Michigan. And I mean, Bill, you probably don't agree, but I think Michigan's the better team than Michigan State. But anything can happen in conference play. So that's really all that comes down to. But at the end of the day, I think this championship run for Ohio State, that game is going to actually matter a lot to them, because they now know how to play in the close games. And hopefully this is a lesson for them that they can't take their foot off the gas, especially against like a top 10 caliber team.
So, Cottrell, I before I let Bill respond, if I was on Around the Horn, I would have given you negative points for your first line. Like, your first line was like, it's a good win because they let their foot off the gas. That's not a good win.
No. It's not a good win because they let their foot off the gas. It's a good win because it's a lesson.
Your argument needs to be that Indiana is a good team. And by saying that they got up 35-7 and let their foot off the gas is not a good argument for them being a good football team. Bill?
I mean, I tend to agree. I mean, I do agree with Cottrell a little bit in the fact that the way this year is, I would say anytime you can put anything in the win column in the year 2020, I would take it. That being said, I think if that game's 4 or 5 minutes longer, it might go to overtime. Justin Fields got outplayed. And the one thing that I wanted to see all year, and I said it from week one, was how Ohio State's defense was going to play. Is that a national championship caliber defense? And I think we got our answer. I think their front seven has definitely improved since the beginning of the year. The secondary is absolutely the weak link on that team. Sean Wade opted back in. I think he's been terrible. Teams are actually to the point teams are throwing at him like they're targeting him. Doxson from Penn State tore him up 2 weeks ago. He had a horrible day Saturday. I think the biggest problem you're going to have is you put that team on the field against a team like Alabama or Clemson that can throw the ball real well. That's going to be a problem. I don't think you could say that they don't deserve to be in the playoff. I would say they have a very, very outside chance of winning a national championship. I don't think they're on the same level as a Clemson or an Alabama. I think offensively they are. But again, Justin Fields looked Justin Fields didn't play well Saturday.
I mean, he's allowed to not play well sometimes, bro.
No. Listen, yeah. I 100% agree. They're kids. I get all that. But to what you said, Saturday was the day they needed to show up. You go out on your home field and beat Indiana 52-14.
Yep.
That's a statement.
I agree with you.
You eke out a win. And again, I'm not picking on Ohio State because of who I like, but
yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
No, I'm just kidding.
The rankings showed that.
Yeah,
like,
they did.
I was shocked to when they started putting it up and they had Ohio State 4, and I was like, well, either something crazy is going to happen, and then it was Clemson number 3 with a loss. Like, so that shows you how they value their loss with a backup quarterback number 1, how high they value Clemson as a team overall, and how little they think of the Big Ten.
I agree.
And the worst case scenario for Ohio State is if you got to realize now Northwestern can still lose and make the Big Ten championship game. If they get a loss before Ohio State, that is terrible for them. Like, terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly let's lead into the next, because I follow your point and I want to lead into the first game of the week. Because we're going to look at these rankings a ton. Is Notre Dame, and the only reason I asked this question, is Notre Dame on an upset alert this week? And the reason I asked this question is because I'm a degenerate. I'm a gambler. I love gambling. So I look at that spread and I can't help but understand why anyone in the world would be betting on North Carolina in that game. 4.5 is what it opened up. And Jordan said something on the wire line. He said, does Florida sneak in the playoffs? The only way Florida sneaks in the playoffs is if they beat Bama. Mm-hmm. That's it.
And that's, again, that is where the problem lies. If Florida is the SEC champion, they're in.
Yes, I agree.
And then you're comparing Alabama to who's ever in the 4 spot. Good luck with that.
I think it's the loser of Clemson or Notre Dame that leaves the playoff picture. I think the loser of that leaves the picture because undefeated Ohio State's going to go over that, in my opinion. A one-loss SEC team versus a one-loss ACC team is not the same thing.
And you got to compare, too. Like, Clemson is going to be going up against Notre Dame, and Clemson is going to be back at full strength. So it's going to be, we're going to see who's really the better team that game, as long as, there aren't any COVID implications in that one. So I do think it's fair to say that if Notre Dame loses that championship game against Clemson, that they would be out. Especially depending on how much they lose by. If it's a touchdown or more, or if it's not like a last-second touchdown, things like that. If Clemson's steadily controlling that game, I don't think there's any way that Notre Dame would get in over a one-loss Alabama team.
No, but I'm going to start with you. Is Notre Dame on upset alert this week?
Probably not.
At North Carolina,
they may know
4.5
something.
spread?
They may know something that we don't, but I mean, I think Notre Dame realized that this is a legit chance for them to make the college football playoff, and they'd be in a favorable spot, not having to go up against Alabama. Well, if the ranking stayed as it is now, they wouldn't have to go up against Alabama the first game of the playoff. So I think Notre Dame realizes what they have on the line, and North Carolina is a decent team, but I don't think that they're going to win, even though they're going to be at home.
Okay, Bill, is Notre Dame on upset alert?
I wouldn't go full-fledged upset alert. They need to play well, though. North Carolina's offense is very good.
They score a lot.
Score a lot of points. Their defense is terrible. But they need to go there and play well. And kind of echo what you said, too. Once the rankings come out, there's more of a real factor to everything. You're now getting on the plane to fly there, and you know you're the number 2 team in the country. You know you have to play well. You know you have to win. There's extra pressure now. Like, you know what you're playing for now. Not that they didn't think they were going to be in the rankings, but again, it's like anything else. When you start seeing it on TV and you see it, you see it in writing and everything else, it holds more weight. You see how teams respond, you see how they play. I expect them to win. I think something bananas would have to happen for them to lose that game.
Maybe backdoor cover, I don't know, but that's a weird spread. They're going to lose a lot of money on that game if Notre Dame does what they should.
Yeah, if Notre Dame's defense shows up, and again, if I would say if you hold North Carolina into the 20s or 30s, I think Notre Dame has the ability to put up 40 plus on that team. So I do think I think if Notre Dame shows up and plays a B plus, type of game, they win handily. I think they would have to play bad for North Carolina to stay in that game. They are ranked though. I mean, people forget they were ranked. I think North Carolina got up to like 8th before they took a really bad loss to somebody. I can't remember who it was.
Okay, so next game on the docket is the Iron Bowl, Auburn versus Alabama. The spread's 24.5. I think that's way too much for a rivalry game like that. Cottrell, what do you think?
So it's interesting to see that Nick Saban actually just tested positive for COVID. And so I don't know how much – obviously it's going to have an effect on the team because he's their leader. But a team like Alabama, they're well coached. They have all the talent in the world. And as much as Nick Saban is going to help them on the sidelines, I actually don't think it's going to be as big of a detriment to that team as it would if it was like other coaches. Like if Ohio State had to play a game without Ryan Day or Clemson had to play a game without Dabo Swinney, like that would be a bigger blow than I think it is going to be for Alabama just because of their culture down there and they're going to have their guys ready. With that said, I do think that spread is insane. Auburn hasn't been that good this year. I feel like expectations coming into the season were a lot higher than what they've turned out to be so far. But Bo Nix is a capable quarterback, and everyone knows that in the rivalry games, players tend to step up. So I don't know if they're going to win by 24.5, but I do think Bama's still going to win. And I don't think it's going to be any question involved in it. But Bo Nix is going to, show that, this isn't going to just be a rollover game.
It's interesting how that game starts. If Alabama goes up 21-3, I think they'll roll. I think if Auburn scores a touchdown on the first drive or two and seems to get some momentum going, I feel like you'll know everything you need to know in the first 12 minutes of that game. Jolly?
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree. I think if Auburn's sitting there losing like 13-7 after the quarter one or something like that, I think they're in the game then. I am curious to see what happens with the line because I think there was some discussion about him trying they were going to put him up in a press box by himself, and apparently with the rules, he will not be at the stadium Saturday.
They shouldn't be putting him anywhere near a stadium.
I know, I agree, but
it's kind of silly.
But you know how Bama is with bending rules, so
I know. Or like New England.
Yeah, so he's going to be home. So Steve Sarkisian's going to be at the helm. And what Cottrell said was spot on. I mean, that dude ran USC for a couple years. That dude ran a major program. He's not going to be overwhelmed on the sideline.
Didn't run it well, but I get it.
Well, yeah, but hey,
I hate Sark.
I know. So I don't think they lose too much there. I will say defensively, not having Saban on the sidelines could get interesting if it's a close game. And again, what Cottrell said, Bo Nix is the prototypical guy that gives Nick Saban defenses issues. He's a kid that can run around and throw the ball. And Manziel, Tyler Boyd, Deshaun Watson, guys like that. Those are the guys that beat Alabama. So it's gonna be interesting. I don't think they cover. I don't think
they cover 24.5 either.
No,
it's not my pick, but I don't think they cover that.
I just Even if even worst case, like you said, 21-3, that probably means they're up by like 30. You know, if Auburn doesn't pull their starters, they probably pull back in and lose by like 20 with a backdoor cover, something like that. I just don't see them running them out of the building like 56-20. I just don't see it.
I get you. From the Iron Bowl to the Toilet Bowl, we have a lovely game between Penn State and Michigan, and I think Penn State gets their first win. I really do. I think that Michigan team is. I think that I don't know. I just don't see Penn State going 0-8, and I think that the game to win is versus a bad Michigan team. Cottrell.
That Michigan quarterback looked really good after Joe Milton got pulled. So I really don't know what to expect with that Michigan team. Their defense has really struggled. But, I mean, Penn State's offense hasn't really had any world beaters. So that's a game where I really don't know what to expect. But if I had to lean a certain way, I probably would lean towards Michigan, honestly.
Harbaugh needs to do the right thing here this week. And this is a game that if he does the wrong thing, I think could elevate the hot seat for him a little bit more than it probably already is. You can't start Joe Milton this week. You can't. Cade McNamara is another kid. He's a 4-star kid. They recruited. He did so well in camp. That's the reason Dylan McCaffrey transferred out, who everybody thought was going to be the incumbent starter this year. He brought them back. It's crazy to say that against Rutgers, but he came in and balled.
We pulled Bill off the bridge. We have actually video footage of that.
I was
Mike,
there.
I'm just kidding.
I was there. I think they take care of business at home. And the other reason I'll say, I'm curious to see how Penn State responds with a lot of the stuff that's swirling around up there right now, with the Franklin incident and Micah Parsons. They have a lot of outside stuff going around in the program. He's had to deal with a lot of questions this week. I don't know how focused they're going to be. And you said it 2 weeks in a row that team's quit. So I mean, they're going to start that kid again. Clifford's not going to play.
Clifford came in the second half, and Clifford came in the second half of the game, and
so
he looked decent. Got him back in the game, and then some really bad interceptions. Jordan on the wire line, is Franklin on a hot seat, or does he get a pass this year? So Bill will tell you he gets a pass. Everybody that's a Penn State fan thinks that he should be on the hot seat and gone. I want him gone.
I don't know. I think if they win a game, I think if they go 0-8, he's in a lot of trouble. I think
get rid of him.
If he goes 0-8 with, well, I mean, if they lose Saturday, they're 0-6. I don't know who the last 2 games are. They're going to go. They go 0-8 with everything else that's going on up there right now. I wouldn't be surprised at all with some of the names that are out there that are, teams are going to start looking at to buy people out. Matt Campbell's a big name right now at Iowa State. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they can go get one of those guys if they fire Franklin.
I'll fire him.
I think all the coaches at the big programs this year who are even close to being on the hot seat, if they give you somewhat of a decent recruiting class this year, just because of how weird everything was this year, especially at Penn State, when you have your best linebacker opt out, you lose your top 2 running backs, like that's going to give certain people a pass. And I think for James Franklin, that's going to get him his pass this year. And he's going to come back and, well, hopefully for Penn State fans, he's going to come back and he's going to give you a great recruiting class, and you're going to get, a lot more guys in the program.
And terrible in-game coaching.
But they don't have a top 10 class right now. That is one of the things I mentioned with Harbaugh that I think that's the reason he gets another year is they have the 6th ranked class coming in next year with a bunch of kids at positions that they need. And I hate to say, but if they win this week, they are 3-3. I mean, it's, they've come back from the depths of mediocrity. But
all right. So, what's your picks for this week? I'm going to start. I have how Oregon's 13.5-point favorites over Oregon State in the Civil War when they've shown that they can't stop anyone. UCLA ran up and down the field on them.
UCLA must won that game.
Yeah. So I'm going to take Oregon State plus 13.5 in the Civil War. I think Oregon just got all their hopes of going 6-0 and winning the Pac-12, maybe being a playoff team, demolished when they seen the rankings, and I think that this is a bad week for them. So Jeff just put up the Penn State's final games. They play Michigan, Rutgers, Michigan State. They could win 2 of those games.
I mean, you say that, but I mean,
they could lose also too.
I'm telling you, 0-8 is very is.
I hope they go 0-8 because I want to get rid of get rid of Franklin. I don't think they will, but
well, I'll ask you something real quick because I know I get grief all the time for Harbaugh. Whose fans are more frustrated, Michigan's or Penn State's? Right
Michigan's. Now? Penn State's not as Penn State's a way more loyal program than Michigan.
That's not true.
Well, Michigan wants winners
around here.
Yeah, but Michigan wants winners. Penn State, you can see still people making arguments for Franklin. I don't see it, but I think that Michigan, knowing the fact that they got Harbaugh there to beat Ohio State and they've did nothing of that sort, I think Michigan fans are way more frustrated, in my opinion. I'm frustrated as a Penn State fan, but if I was a Michigan fan and I was that storied franchise, put it to you this way. You're a Michigan fan. You live right outside Philadelphia. You became a Michigan fan because they're a very storied franchise and you followed people from the franchise, right? Not franchise, but, program.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
They're too storied of a franchise or program. But yeah, I think Michigan fans. What's your pick for this week, though?
The two games I'm actually picking both of them. The two games I picked were the two we discussed. I'm taking Notre Dame -5, 5.5, 4.5, whatever it's at. It keeps moving, and I'm taking Auburn to cover the 24.5.
College Control, what you got?
So I was leaning towards taking Auburn to cover that 24.5, but I'm gonna officially go with Texas and Iowa State. Right now, Texas is only half-point favorites over Iowa State, and I really feel like Texas is gonna win that game. So I mean that seems like it's gonna be a gimme if I'm gonna go with Texas. I love Matt Campbell at Iowa State, but I just feel like Texas is gonna get that win. They've got it rolling, and they're gonna keep it rolling.
Iowa State looked good last week.
I can't wait to see who ends up finishing with more wins between you two in college football.
Well, if I win both this week and he loses, he's not college control next week anymore.
I get it. It's college shellcross.
Scholastic Shally.
So real quick, before we're going to switch topics, but I wanted to thank everyone for, we had a very successful week last week, and we appreciate that. We appreciate everything that you guys are doing. If you guys please can share everything, download us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we're everywhere. Give us a share, give us a like. We really just want to continue growing with you guys, so thank you so much. I also want to address the elephant in the room because I'm sure people have commented on it. Control's not in the studio today, so we're going to do the Cleveland jerseys next week. Why he's here, we want to get some pictures in the studio with him, so we'll do the Browns jerseys next week. Control's actually picking them up from Cleveland for us, but we're going to move over just as a joke. We're going to open the wire lines. It's 856-485-9565, 856-485-9565. I'm going to talk a little bit of Mike Tyson, Roy Jones, and that joke of a fight they have this weekend. Also, when you're calling in, give us your most overrated boxer because of the Mike Tyson, Roy Jones. We've been looking to get into this topic for a little bit, some boxing fans. So give us your most overrated boxer when you call in. The wire lines are open. And what do you think about the rules of this fight, Bill? It's a joke.
I mean, I just wish they would call it what it is. I mean, it's a money grab for both of them. I mean, you're going on name recognition. They don't want anybody to get knocked out. If somebody gets cut, they're stopping the fight. They're using pillows for boxing gloves. I don't know. I'm not paying $50 to watch it. I think I think there's Mike Tyson has a ton of fans out there. So does Roy Jones Jr. in his defense. I mean, he's regarded as pound for pound guy in the world for a long time. It's two really, really big names of two guys that are really, really over the hill. So I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to see what kind of shape people show. And Mike looks ripped, but I mean, I don't know.
So the fun question would be, what gets more pay-per-view buys? This or the Chuck Tito bullshit that they have? Control?
Probably, honestly, Mike Tyson, just because I feel like they've been hyping up this fight a little bit more than the other fight. But Mike Tyson, especially just seeing videos of him train and do everything like that, like it's crazy to see like how much in shape he will be, and what Roy Jones Jr. is going to look like in that fight. It is because of all of the rules that they have going on, especially no knockouts, and if somebody gets cut, the fight's over. And then no judges.
Mike's not smart enough. Mike's not smart enough to do it.
I know who a winner is. I want to know who the winner is. That's if it
You're
has
not
to go
gonna
to
have
the
one.
cards,
They're not
I
gonna
wanna
call
know.
it.
I know. That's why I'm
I was
saying.
literally going to say, there's no way
I don't
this
like
isn't
that.
it. That's what they're going to say. It's going to. They're just going to be like, oh, it's a draw. Like that's exactly how this is ending. Like if you think anything else.
Well, they're not declaring a winner. They already said
No
that.
judges. Yeah.
I actually think Mike's not smart enough to actually go by the rules. I think Mike's going to swing hard, and I think Mike's going to swing to try to knock him out, which is be the only entertaining part. I'll probably end up illegally streaming it, and you have me on video saying that shit. But I don't. Yeah.
If they were letting them actually fight, I would watch this.
Yeah.
I
probably.
would watch Mike swing for the fences for two rounds, see if he hits Roy, and then watch Roy just jab him into an oblivion for the rest of the fight. If they were allowing them to actually box, I would watch it. But that's what I mean. If you're a huge Mike Tyson fan, I didn't want to wait all these years to watch him and then watch him come back and do this. You know what I mean?
The people that are huge Mike Tyson fans, because he was so exciting. But
Here we go.
I'm going to get into it right now. So I'm going to give you my most overrated boxer of all time, and it's Iron Mike Tyson. I'm sorry, and there's a lot of people that are going to give me a lot of crap for this, and I've seen it already on the Wire message board. Guys, it's very simple. He hasn't beat anybody. He beat Michael Spinks at the end of his career in his last career fight. He beat a 48-year-old fat Larry Holmes. I'm fat, I can say that. But my point being is he beat nobody. Anytime he went against someone that was... Evander Holyfield beat him, Lennox Lewis beat him. The Buster Douglas fight was a joke, how he loses that fight. Mike Tyson is the most overrated boxer in the history of boxing, period. Anyone else want to add on that?
So
Go ahead.
I won't. I mean, I get why you say that, and that's a valid point. But just seeing him in his prime was just so fun to watch, and that's probably part of the reason why he gets so much hype. But for me, I'm going to go with Oscar De La Hoya. That's a guy who I think is a really good boxer. But the biggest names that he fought, he lost to. The thing is with that too is that when you go up against Sugar Shane Mosley, where do you rank Sugar Shane on your list of all-time great boxers? And you lose to him twice. So I'm going to go with that. I think Oscar De La is a great boxer, but I think he's a little overrated because people have him in their top, 5 or top 3, and I just don't think he's there.
I want to make a comment on that before you do, because I disagree with you completely.
All over the place.
So my point being on that is Oscar De La Hoya won both those Mosley fights. I don't really care what the judges said. I feel like he got robbed. And to add on to that point, let me ask you a question real quick. Who's Floyd Mayweather's closest fight? Because I remember watching Floyd versus Oscar, and I remember saying, wow, this could go either way.
I think I would echo that. There's still a lot of people think Oscar won that fight.
He didn't.
I think it's really close.
But it was very 7-5 is what I had.
And we're bringing up Shane. Who's the only person that's ever really rocked Floyd?
Shane hit him.
Shane buckled him.
Yeah, but Shane buckled him.
Yeah, but no one has
up.
Shane in their top 5 or top 10. So that's really where I'm going with that.
Right.
I get it.
I'll use that for lack of a better terms against you. Shane Mosley's ranked higher on the list than anybody Mike Tyson's ever fought.
That's a fact. Who's yours?
Mine's Mike Tyson.
See, we got 2 Mike Tysons. I like that.
And it's for the same thing. If you take feelings out of it, now I will say this. I was a huge Mike Tyson fan growing up. Like when he was on, I was at friends' houses or people in my house watching it. Everybody tuned in. The dude was a machine. And you tuned in to watch him murder somebody. That's what you tuned in for. And was he good at that? He was. But I mean, come on, man. He fought Peter McNeely. Dude was a trash truck driver. Oscar De La Hoya never fought anybody like that. And you could say De La Hoya lost the majority of his big fights, but if you look at the prime of Oscar De La Hoya's career, everybody he fought is a big name guy.
Yep, you are absolutely correct.
He was never in the ring with anybody ranked lower than 1 or 2 on any list. That dude fought everybody. Moved up in weight classes, beat people. I don't know. I can't. I love you, Cottrell. I can't buy that though.
Okay, so
so I was going to say I want to just go on Jeff's comment there about Ronda Rousey. I do think Ronda is overrated because of I'm not going to say overrated, but just because that she lost her 2 last fights against Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes, but those are 2 of the best women fighters in the UFC. And Ronda at the time, I can't say that the talent did catch up to her, but at the same time, like she was just great at what she did. I think it got to a point where she thought she was a legit striker, and she wasn't. Like she got away from her game plans of being the wrestler.
I'm gonna give you. I can't agree with Cottrell more.
Yeah, I agree too.
You want to know who Ronda Rousey is? It's a perfect example. Ronda Rousey's Matt Hughes.
Ronda Rousey is Roy Jones, and I'm going to tell you why.
But I'll tell you why. Matt Hughes was the same way. Matt Hughes got in octagon, boxed with you for like 2 or 3 minutes, got bored, and was like, "I'm just going to pick you up and smash you now."
Yeah.
He got through GSP the first time. He won the trilogy with BJ, but then after that, he started taking fights with strikers and just started getting like big names, mind you. Don't get me wrong, but started getting beat by people who were just better all around MMA fighters, and that was Ronda. Ronda got in the ring with Holly Holm. Was like, I'm gonna outbox her. She's like a world champion kickboxer. That was a bad idea. And Amanda Nunes, like that, losing to her is not like doesn't make you overrate it. She's an animal.
So Jeff, I follow your point. I do, but I disagree with it. I think that Ronda Rousey was beating the crap out of everybody, even people that are still in, like Betch Korea is still fighting UFC. She beat everybody and I think she literally got to the point where she thought she was just so good and she was too good. Get the mouse off the damn screen, Mike. God, I'm kidding, but I think it's a terrible thing that I don't think she's overrated.
I think Ron at the end too was very overwhelmed. She was Connor Jr. at the end. I mean, Dana was throwing her in front of every camera that he could.
Yeah,
she had so much stuff going on, and she's even said it. She's the part of like after she lost to Holly, like that's why she took that huge layoff. Like she wanted out. Like she wanted to go home and just not be around anything for a year. She
couldn't handle losing. I disagree with that.
No, it's part of it. When you get when you get beat that badly, like that just smoked, knocked unconscious. But she needed a break too. And people always say that when it comes after a loss, like, oh well, like home like licking their wounds. Like I think there are people like when you get to a certain degree with like the fame and all that, like she couldn't go anywhere. Like she was on talk shows every day. Like I do. I think she needed to. She wanted out. She wanted out in the worst way.
Let me go back to my point earlier I made about Ronda Rousey and Roy Jones. Roy Jones, when he got beat by Antonio Tarver, and this is the big problem with Roy Jones as a whole, when his chin got rocked, he was never the same fighter ever again. He was glass jaw, man. Like it was like he had so many hits in that chin, and when it really got rocked, like I'll never forget No Excuses This Time, Roy. That was one of the greatest entry lines to a fight of all time. No Excuses This Time, Roy, and then knocked him out in the second round. Like, we don't talk about that fight enough. And I think that when Ronda got knocked out, it was just she couldn't handle losing, and she was not the same person anymore. And I think that when she came back, she fought Amanda Nunes, which was a terrible
I don't know
comeback
how you make that
fight.
your comeback fight.
And Amanda Nunes just demolished her. It was a joke.
I think any of those fighters like that are guys that are deemed like killers per se, like part of their aura is being like, the invincibility of them. And when you break that, just like when Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson, everybody was like, oh, like he's human. Like if you can box him, and get through the first couple rounds and, drag him into deeper water, he's a very average guy. Same thing about Roy. Like Roy was the fast guy that nobody could hit forever, and then Tarver smoked him, and then was like, oh, he's beatable. Ronda Rousey got KO'd. It matters. It matters for guys getting in the ring. Like especially with Tyson, I'll give him credit for that. There was guys he was in the ring with, and like you could see before they ring the bell, they were like, just get me out of here. Like
I'm just here to collect the check.
Yeah, like get me. I'm gonna get hurt. Like get me out of this ring. But that's definitely part of it. I mean, it's and on the fighter side, and Roy is a great example. There are guys that do not handle getting knocked out well, and you see they get gunshot for the rest of their career.
Yeah, and if you remember how flashy and how showboatish he was, like how much he used to like put his arms behind his back, put his chin forward, did that Anderson Silva thing, and when he got knocked out, it was just like you didn't see that. You didn't see that confidence. You didn't see that swag. And that was that. That was the end of Roy. Roy was done.
It puts doubt in their heads, and that's one thing you don't want as a fighter.
I agree. Anybody just moving on to a different topic? Anybody watching the match on Friday?
I am.
The match is gonna be fun this year.
Tune in.
So it's Steph Curry, who's a very good golfer, and Peyton Manning versus one of the best golfers in the world, and Phil Mickelson, and one of the worst golfers in the world, Charles Barkley. I don't necessarily think that Phil and Charles really have too much of a chance, even though Phil's the professional elite golfer. I think the other two are good golfers, very good golfers. I think Charles is so bad. Your thoughts?
This is out of all the ones they've done so far, this is gonna by far be the most entertaining.
The funniest, to say the least.
Oh, it's hands down. The trash talk that's gonna happen between and anybody, I'll tell you, anybody that's ever played with Phil Mickelson tells you he needles you and does nothing but talk trash. Like there's guys that like want to play with him all the time in practice rounds because all he does is gamble and talk shit. That's all he does. Him and Charles, again, Charles is literally one of the worst golfers on the planet. And it's, they're going to put rules, like I've read, they're going to put rules in place where they have to take certain shots of his on certain holes. So you are going to see Phil Mickelson hitting the ball from like the woods. Like it's going to be hysterical. I would be shocked if Peyton and Steph don't win because Steph has played in, like big time pro-ams. He's played in qualifiers for opens and stuff like that. Everybody saw what Peyton could do last year. Hopefully the weather will be better. They are playing in Arizona, playing at Stone Canyon, which is a very nice course. So conditions should be way better. It's just going to be super entertaining. I mean, if you're into golf or any of those guys individually, tune in, watch it. It's going to be a fun 4 hours. Even if
you're not into golf, you don't need to be into golf to watch that and have fun.
Yeah, if you just want to watch that and just watch it for the trash talk and just a straight comedy of it, you're gonna have a very fun 4 hours.
I'm not that into golf, and I really enjoyed Peyton and Brady.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious.
It was very well done last year. The golf won't be as good this year. But
any entertainment that you have with Charles Barkley on there is going to be legit entertainment.
Exactly.
Especially if he's not doing well, he's still going to talk like he's the best golfer on the course, and it's just going to be fun to see.
You got to remember last year he was commentating and talking trash about the guys playing, and they all heard about it and started like during the telecast talking back at him. And he's like, I can't imagine what's going to be like watching him driving around in a cart looking for his golf ball all day and the stuff that's going to be said. It's just, I'm actually legit excited to watch it. I can't wait to watch it.
Okay. NBA free agency is the next topic we have on this beautiful show today. So I want to comment on what I think was the best move so far in free agency, assuming AD comes back, is the Montrezl Harrell signing in LA. I love that signing. That signing makes the Lakers so much tougher. They won a championship, but I feel like that what they lacked on that team was toughness, like a toughness. And I think Montrez brings that to the table. I'm a huge Montrez fan. I think him signing with the Lakers and then them getting Marc Gasol, because Marc Gasol, say what you want about Marc. Marc will take your big man. Like he call him the Joel stopper. Whenever he plays against down low, Cat, anybody that's going to play down low like that, Marc Gasol is one of the best defensive big men in the league. He's not going to be used as much, especially if Trez and Anthony Davis are both on the team, which we're assuming Anthony Davis re-signs with LA. I think that's a very huge signing for the Lakers, both of them.
I agree. And the word you use is perfect. That makes them a tougher team. It's a little bit, they're gonna have more of an edge to them. And again, I think psychologically, everybody keeps on anoint the Clippers, this and this and this. He's staying in the same building, putting on a different jersey now. Like he's not going to change. Like he's literally just in a different locker room. I think that's a huge blow for LA, for the Clippers, mind you. That's a big signing. I think. I'm not as excited about the Gasol thing strictly because he's going to be another year older. He started to look his age last year.
He did.
But I do think with signing those guys, they're going to be able to play him a little bit. They'll be able to watch his minutes a little bit more. So I think you'll get, instead of him playing 25 a night, he probably plays like 16 to 18 and can go a little bit harder.
I agree.
So yeah, I mean, they're, again, we're assuming AD's coming back. I don't, and especially with Clay getting hurt, I think they're the best team in the West.
Before you hop in, Cottrell, and I promise I'll go right to you in a second. I also think that it's underrated that Markieff Morris is back. So you have Markieff Morris, you have Montrezl Harrell. They're your toughness. That gives you so much flexibility. What are your thoughts on that, Trell?
I definitely agree. Montrez is going to bring you a lot of toughness, and we kind of saw it last year. Well, Markieff didn't really play much last year down the stretch, so he was your tough guy, but he was coming off the bench and he wasn't always in. So if teams were getting scrappy, he really couldn't do much from being on the sidelines. But Montrez is going to be a guy who's going to be on the court when the game matters. And if it gets chippy, Trez is going to be there to back up everybody, no matter, who it is. Like, he could be going up against a 7-footer, it could be a 6-footer. It doesn't matter who's in front of him. Trez is going to be the tough guy and, do all the dirty work that you need. With that said, it makes Anthony Davis' job a lot easier now. He's not going to be the only one, like, being relied on for rebounds and things like that. And you could put Trez out there to give you some buckets. And another underrated signing for the Lakers, well, not signing, but they traded for Dennis Schroeder. And I think that's going to be a big get for them, especially because they lost out on Rondo to free agency. So adding in the sixth man of the year and then the second place finisher for sixth man of the year is a good get. And the champs just got better.
So who do you think had the best free agency overall?
I think the Sixers did. And follow me real quick.
No, I'm not going to argue. I was going to say, like, a lot of people on ESPN said that. I was letting you go.
Getting rid of the Al Horford contract is so huge. I think that's... And then they said something that was magical. I heard them say something magical. Daryl Morey was on 97.5, and he was talking, and he was like, we want to do what's best for Ben and Joel and surround them with shooters. Only everyone's noticed that for the last 3 years and been screaming it from the damn rafters. But they did exactly what they needed to do. They got Seth Curry. They got Danny Green. And Danny Green's not going to play it as much. Danny Green isn't going to have to play as much as he played in L.A. He's going to be your 18 to 21 minutes a game, and it's going to hit you 3 or 4 threes, and it's going to stretch the floor. Same with Seth. Seth isn't going to play. If people think Seth Curry's going to play 30, 35 a night, you're crazy. It's not going to happen.
He's going to start, though.
I still don't think he plays 30 to 35 a night.
I think he plays 30.
I don't. What do you think, Joe?
I could see Seth getting a lot of minutes, but you got to think, too, that you did just get another shooting guard in the draft, too, with Maxey. So,
I love Maxey.
The minutes are going to be limited there for the shooting guard. So, Seth probably doesn't hit 30, but I do see him starting, and he probably is going to get a lot of run on that team.
25 to 28 is where I had him at, which is not close. It's still close to 30.
Yeah,
but
it's a lot of it's going to depend on game flow and stuff like that at that point too,
and how hot he is.
Yeah, that too.
Who do you think had the best free agency, Bill?
It's overall. It's probably LA or Philly. I think. The other team that a lot of people were talking about too is Atlanta, man. They had a sneaky. You got to remember where they were last year. That team's absolutely gonna make the playoffs this year now.
I just don't like I think the Rondo addition's ugly.
I don't.
I think it's an ugly addition.
Point guard, so.
Yeah, but why would you leave from being the starting point guard on the World Champions? I'm sorry. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's a great signing. I think Rondo is a bad fit for that team.
He may be a bad fit for them, but as far as,
are you going to play him and Trae on the same time?
His development.
Are you going to play them both on the court at the same time?
In practice and, just mentoring them for the whole season, I think he's going to have a good impact on Trae Young's development. I think
they're going to have a lot of times when he comes in the game, they're just going to put Trae to 2.
Yeah, I know, but that's a very small backcourt.
They're going to play fast.
I get it.
I'm just saying.
I also do like the Hawks free agency signings.
Yeah, you can't say. They got drastically better. I guess like I said, that team's gonna make the playoffs next year.
I think with the Sixers getting Seth Curry, Danny Green, Dwight Howard, it's an under radar signing to back up a Joel or to start the games that Joel. You obviously know Joel's not going to play every game. That's just what he does. I think that, and then surrounding them with shooters. Like, I love the Maxey draft. Maxey, that 3-pointer that they keep showing. Maxey, you're a freshman. You're not supposed to do this. No, I think that I can't wait to watch the Sixers this year. I'm so happy Daryl Morey's here. I'm all on board. I'm on the bandwagon right now.
We know.
Hey, listen, I wasn't last year. I was the biggest Sixer hater when this show started.
What do you think? What do you think the starting lineup is?
So it'll probably be. I think Matisse starts. So I think that they'll end up starting Ben, Matisse, Tobias, Joel, and Seth.
That's probably right.
I think Matisse starts. I think Matisse Thybulle is going to be your big second-year jump. I think he's going to have a great year.
I mean, he definitely showed flashes of it last year. I mean, the kid had games where he literally just...
He's unbelievable defensively, and he can guard 3 to 4 positions.
Yeah. He's a lot like Ben in that aspect.
I think they're going to be still very good defensively.
Underrated signing for...
Good, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was leading to you.
The Pelicans, I think they had a pretty good offseason just because, getting Steven Adams and re-signing Brandon Ingram off of his jump. They're not going to be a team that's going to be right in championship contention this year, but I just feel like, they made good moves to help them out for the future. And, a year or two from now, I think, depending on what the development is of guys like Zion, Lonzo, and B.I., that team could be in the mix and be in the thick of it down the stretch.
I think they made the playoffs.
I do, too.
They made the playoffs. I think they're there for the 7th, 8th seed.
I think they're higher.
Ooh.
I do. I think Zion with a full year,
so
B.I. with another year.
All right, well, I'll just you go LA, Golden State, Phoenix.
I don't put Golden State that high. I don't. I think the Klay Thompson loss is way bigger than everyone acts like it should be. I think Phoenix would be 3.
I wasn't doing them like ranking wise. No. I was just saying like going down like who's definitely in. So okay. LA, Golden State, Phoenix, Utah, Denver. I think the 6 of them are locks.
Would you think I'm crazy if I told you that the Pelicans could finish higher than Golden State and Utah? Both of them. I really believe that.
I wouldn't call you crazy.
I wouldn't call you crazy. I think that's more of a long shot than it is probably a reality.
That's fine. I just love what they're doing with that franchise.
I mean, listen. Ingram was the piece they wanted in that trade. They maxed them.
And they did it well.
They did. They got Zion. And
Lonzo gets to play real point now. Like, he gets to play point where he's not. It doesn't have to be a short.
Correct.
And you don't have Drew there, so you actually have.
I want to see how he handles the pressure of it now. Like, he is the guy now. I
don't think pressure is the issue, especially with that family.
He's not the guy, though.
No, exactly.
He's the guy to be the point now, though. Like, he's like, that's his team now. Like, that's his. Like, he's gonna run that team. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Okay, so NBA. Any other comments?
Well, I should say, who do you think the team is? That's the odd team out then.
What, in the West?
Yeah, like is it Portland?
Yeah. I just guess with Nurkic's back. What?
Dame's got to get out of there.
I agree. They could. I don't know. I think Phoenix is definitely a lock to be a top 5.
I agree.
Team.
We talked about it last week. I don't think there's any doubt. I think Chris Paul playing with that team, it just makes them. If he can stay healthy,
I'm moving to Phoenix.
All right.
I want to go to Phoenix. Let's move to Phoenix and do the show from there.
We got to add Dallas in there too.
Oh my god.
Yeah, Luka and Kristaps.
Luka's
unbelievable. He might win MVP this year.
He could. I mean, well, Porzingis is already hurt. So, Dirty said he's not going to be ready for the game.
That's the problem, is Porzingis staying on the court.
I mean, Curry was one of their best bench players there, too. Like, that's going to hurt a little bit. I remember we played him towards the end of the season last year. He killed us.
Yeah. He's a good player. He can't stay on the court.
No.
I think he's more fragile than Joel, which makes it worse. All right, so let's move on to NFL. We got a full ticket of NFL. So first, what we wanted to do is we wanted to break down all 3 Turkey Day games.
Yeah, thanks COVID.
We're not going to do that. We're going to break down 2 of them. But I just want to break down the Turkey Day games because you guys are going to be watching the games tomorrow, and this will be fresh in your head. The first game is a really strong team between 2 playoff games. Detroit Lions versus the Houston Texans. I know it sounds, I can't understand how Houston is a 3-point favorite in that game. I don't think they're a better team. I know you do. But I think that Detroit's a better team. I think they're the 3-point dog. I like Detroit playing at home tomorrow. I do. I know Galladay's out. I get it, but I still like Detroit tomorrow.
Well, it's Galladay, and I think Swift isn't playing either.
Okay.
So, listen, man, Detroit. I'm always like on the opposite weeks with Detroit. Like when I bet them, they play horrible, and when I go against them, like Stafford goes for like 350 and 4 touchdowns. You just don't know who they are. If they lose, this is probably that might be the final nail in Matt Patricia's coffin. So, I mean, I don't know, how well they play, and Houston played really well last week. I mean, that was probably their best game of the year.
Well, that's the undervalue overvalue of the week.
Yeah.
Detroit played terrible. This is why
that's why I'm staying away from it.
That's my bonus pick, by the way. I'm not going to get that. I have 3 picks, but my bonus pick would be Detroit over Houston, because you look at the look ahead spread had Detroit favored. Now Houston's favored by 3. It's literally the classic overvalue undervalue that everyone in the NFL rides week to week. Houston win that game at home, and then Detroit losing to 20-0 on the road.
Yeah.
Now you're going to bring Detroit back home. They're not going to get embarrassed twice in a row, and they play well at home. I think Detroit wins the football game, and I think they win it. I do. I think they win it in a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be fun. Turducken. What do you think,
I think
Trell?
it's interesting to see. Matt Patricia, you mentioned it, Bill. I think his job is pretty much out of there. I don't think there's any chance, no matter what happens the rest of this season, that he's going to be the head coach of the Lions next year. With the Texans, I mean, they did look really good last week, so I think you are going to see that carry over to this game. But it's a Thanksgiving game. Detroit's used to playing on Thanksgiving. They're going to be in front of all their family and everything, and I think Detroit's going to find a way to edge this one out. And even if they don't edge it out all the way, I think it's going to be a close game, and it's probably going to come down to a last possession kind of thing where it just depends on who has the ball in their hands, if it's Matt Stafford or Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I mean, I think it reeks of like a walk-off field goal type thing. I think it's a mid-20s game. I think it's like 27-26, like something in there. It could go either way. I'm going to watch it because it's football on Thanksgiving.
Yep.
I'd be lying if I said I was excited.
I am. I'm excited.
I mean, I love watching Watson play, so I mean, I'll watch it for that, and I feel like Stafford is probably like the most overlooked, underappreciated guy, like for his career with the numbers he's put up on just traditionally terrible teams. So yeah,
he did have Megatron for like 8 years.
Yeah, but like that's it. Like a defense.
Marvin Jones, Kenny Galladay, he's got a lot of weapons, man. I think so. You say it that way, undervalued, not appreciated. I think he's might be overrated.
Oof.
That's my point. I think he's had so many weapons throughout the years, and they've never won anything.
They've been ranked the last 5 in defense, I think, the last 7 years in a row.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that matters.
Yeah, they haven't not been winning because of Matt Stafford.
Exactly. I mean,
we judge quarterbacks on wins, right?
Oh, let's not do
We
this.
do.
Because we're going to get into that in a minute. By the way, Wire Line's open, 856-485-9565. 856-485-9565. We'll be getting into that in a minute. But good. Control.
I was just going to say, when you surround a certain player around a great culture, and even if they aren't that good, so like last year, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo was a quarterback on a really good team around him, but by no means do I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a better quarterback than Matt Stafford.
He's not.
So I think you have to put things into perspective, and like this year, for example, Derek Carr has more wins than what Matt Stafford has, but I'm not going to say he's a better quarterback
this year. He is.
Matt Stafford. Maybe this year, maybe. But, I mean, you also have a great rusher with Josh Jacobs there, so it makes the load a lot easier.
Do you notice what happens with Oakland? Or not, Las Vegas. Do you notice what happened with them? They built that team from the line. They added. They took a running back in the first round. They have a top 3 offensive line. They have a top 5 running back in the league. They don't even have weapons. They don't. Waller, Aguilar, they don't have weapons like that. But when you have an offensive line and you have a solid running game, it's amazing how much better a quarterback could look. It is.
Are we just going to get into this?
Why not? No, I want to break down Washington.
Can we get the other games first?
It's fine. Washington, Dallas is next on the ticket. I like the Redskins tomorrow, and I'll tell you why I like the Redskins. I love the Redskins tomorrow.
All right.
The Redskins are plus 2.5. Forget that. They're going to win the game. But their front four gets at the quarterback very, very well. And Dallas's offensive line is in shambles. They've been in shambles for weeks. The reason, Minnesota can't rush the passer. I think they're 27th in the league in rushing the quarterback. Whereas I think what Washington's going to do is the same thing they did to them last time, is kick the shit out of them and win the game in the trenches. Alex Smith doesn't turn the ball over much. And I think that Washington wins that football game.
Nobody turns the ball over against Dallas because their defense is terrible.
Correct. There's another reason I like Washington tomorrow.
I think I saw something. McLaurin isn't going to play though.
I don't think it matters.
It matters a little bit.
It matters, but I think that Washington still wins the game whether he plays or doesn't.
I'm not as confident as you.
They're the football team, Nick. Nick said, let's go Redskins. We want to be clear, right, Nick? No racism on this show, okay?
Oh.
They're the football team.
Jesus. I'm not as confident as you. I do think Washington wins the game. I think it's a lower scoring game. But, I mean, for pretty much everything you said, I just think defense is going to be the difference in the game. I think offenses are pretty similar. And, again, Dallas's defense is just a joke.
That's going to make it really easy for you, but I'm going to ask you guys, who is the number one pass defense in football right now? Anybody else?
Who's the number what?
Number one pass defense in football.
It's actually Washington.
It is Washington.
Yeah.
That is correct. So, I really... And do you know why?
I only know that because
the D-line is so good.
What? Because they're... exactly. Because their D-line is so good.
You get rid of the ball.
Yep. And that amazing how that works together.
I'm actually going to roll with the Cowboys in that game.
Well,
normally,
you're not coming back. I'm just kidding.
Normally, I know, I try to stay away from the 2.5 just because of, the rules and everything. But the Cowboys looked good last week. I mean, I hate to say it. Like, I'm the farthest thing from a Cowboys fan. But, I mean, they looked good last week. I get it. It was against the Minnesota Vikings team. But maybe they're finally finding their stride with everything going on. Unfortunately for them, they did have their one of their coaches passed away. So I think that's going to be a team that's playing a little bit inspired. And, those emotional games can either go one of two ways. It's going to go really good for you where you just come out, with your hair on fire, or you're going to come out and, lay a turd. So I just think that it's going to be the latter for the Cowboys, and they're going to come out inspired, and they're going to, win a game for their strength and conditioning coach.
That's why they're not one of my official picks, is because of that death. And, God rest his soul to strength.
Did he die today?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. I didn't see that. It was late.
So that's why they're not one of my official picks, by the way.
The one thing that makes me a little leery of this pick is exactly what Cottrell said. They played with heart Sunday. They were down that game twice, and they came back both times, and they came back and won against, again, Minnesota's defense is like backwards. They have a good secondary, and their front seven's awful. But they did. They showed like they wanted to play and like they wanted to be there. Home game, playing for that guy. I mean, it does. They go either way. Again, I lean slightly Washington. I won't be surprised at all if Dallas wins that game.
Okay, so after that, we're going to get into Eagles-Browns recap. I'm going to start here. So that's fine. So I watched the Eagles-Browns game. I watched it play-by-play. We were texting back and forth throughout the entire game. A lot of things were evident. I'm going to make a very bold statement right here on the show. Jason Peters should be benched, which is not bold. That's not bold. I told you weeks ago, especially last week, they should tell me he's playing right guard, and they should put Jordan Mailata in. That's not bold. Here's the bold statement. I want them to bench Wentz. And let me be clear why. Because, guys, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. My eyes are deceiving me. I know there's a lot of Wentz haters, and I get it. If I'm wrong, I want to know I'm wrong. So I want to see Jalen Hurts play with this offensive line, with this skill position, and this play calling. I want to see that. Because I don't want the Eagles to make the playoffs the way this team's constructed. I stopped wanting them to make the playoffs after last week. I did. I really, it bothers me so much watching that football game. Wentz made a terrible play for that pick six. He did. However, man, Cottrell, you said it perfectly. Let me ask you a question real quick. How many good games this year has Olivier Vernon had?
0.
Okay, so he had 3 sacks against Jason Peters, who looked like he looked atrocious in that football game.
I think it's funny that nobody's mentioning either how much worse that game would have been if Myles Garrett played.
Oh my God,
Myles Garrett might have killed Wentz, like killed him. Like he probably puts him into the ground and kills him.
How was Matt Pryor playing in that football game?
Matt Pryor wasn't even the worst.
I know, Jason Peters was the worst. Cottrell, you watched that game, and that's your squad. And next week you'll be here to take pictures with us, wearing Browns jerseys and all that jazz. I want you to give me your take on the football game and your take on the quarterback play.
So my take on the football game is that as much as you want to hate on Wentz, I've seen the Browns play in those conditions. Not even just the Browns, like the other quarterbacks that have come in and playing in those conditions. It's tough. Like it's a game on the lake. Weather was not quarterback friendly. The one thing that I will say about that game was that it was amazing to me that first drive that the Eagles had on offense, that they ran the ball so many times, and you get down into the red zone and you're running back fumbles. And it was kind of like they abandoned the run. Like, not completely. I'm not saying that, but
did you see what's on the screen? Jeff Comment on the wire line said Doug ran the ball 10 out of the first 12 plays, then 15 for the rest of the game. So your point is dead on.
Yeah, and they were just moving the ball so well by running up the field on the Browns. And it just seemed they got away from that because of the fumble. I mean, that's going to happen when you have bad weather involved in certain games. So, but my take on that, Baker Mayfield didn't play great in that game. The Eagles D-line played a lot better than I thought they would against the Browns rushing attack. Nick Chubb broke off one big run that got his numbers a lot higher there. But, the Eagles defense played their part, and a lot of that is on play calling. I got to say that. Carson didn't play great, but it's hard to play great when you don't have great play calling behind you to help you out a little bit.
Bill, I'm going to stop. Bill?
If you got anything else, I'll just say go, because I'm going to go for a couple minutes.
Okay, so I have a lot of different things to say on this game, and the biggest mistake he made was lobbing that ball up to Miles Sanders the way he did for the pick 6 by Taki. I thought that was a really bad play, and I'm not going to act like it wasn't. The people that are arguing about the open play in the flat, and that was his first read, it wasn't. Torrey Smith broke that play down, who actually played on the football team, and said that it's basically a double move. It's a long progression play, and they didn't see that Cleveland was running a cornerback blitz on the play. With that being said, the offensive line played atrocious. The wide receivers dropped many balls. Alshon Jeffrey, man. I'm going to bring this up because he's not my you got to be kidding me, but he should be. Alshon Jeffrey is trash, man. Like, him not timing that jump, it's like he doesn't give a shit at all. I almost think that he was happy. He was smiling on the sideline after the game. I cannot wait until that man is out of Philadelphia, and I've completely forgotten his 2017 Super Bowl run, because that man is literally a cancer to that team. Bill.
Yeah, I mean, he's played 2 games back now. He has a whopping 0 catches. I mean, you could put him, he's right up there with
2 drops.
2 drops. He's right up there with JJW. Sean just said the same thing. I mean, it's still believed to be he was the one talking to Josina. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how well liked he is in that locker room. I'm going to break the game down this way, because I'm going to first say kind of what you echoed. I think people misconstrue that people that stand up for Wentz think we're saying that he's playing out of his mind. I'm not saying that.
Neither am I.
I have not said that. I am not saying he's even playing as good as he should be. But
I agree again.
But everybody that makes those arguments never says anything about the offensive line, the wide receivers not getting open, and the horrible play calling. They all go together. And I'm going to use a perfect example. We talked about Derek Carr 10 minutes ago. Derek Carr's this, Derek Carr's that. Go rewatch that game. You know what? He doesn't have the best weapons that win off the line every time. He is a top 3 running back. He has a great offensive line. Derek Carr went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes on Monday night or Sunday night. because every time he dropped back to pass, he had 4 seconds to throw the ball. That makes anybody look good. You know what the example that I'll give you for the play is the play right after Fletcher Cox strip Chubb. That first play, they run play action. Carson actually got a pocket, had 3.5 seconds to throw the ball. What does he do? He looks left. He goes through his progression, has time to throw, has time to go to the right side of the field. Rodgers is in the back corner of the end zone, and he throws the ball perfectly, a dime over 2 Cleveland defenders for a touchdown. It's not hard. It's not hard to see what the problem is. He's the most sacked, he's the most rushed, and the most hurried quarterback in the NFL. Their offensive line is terrible. Terrible. I put that joke post up on the site, which is worse, the Phillies bullpen or the Eagles offensive line, but it's a legit conversation.
Jeff was chiming in. Jeff Alswick was chiming in. Can you put that back up, please?
What do you say?
He said about Nelson Aguilar. Philly bagged on Nelson. Then he goes to Vegas, and he's great, doing a great job. I wonder why. Hey, Jeff, I'm going to tell you something right now. Nelson dropped the ball that lost that game.
True.
Do you want to call a spade? Nelson had a huge drop in that game. He had 2 drops, but that drop was the one that lost the game.
And that's Nelson's MO.
Exactly.
He makes 3 or 4 great catches in the second quarter. Fourth quarter of the game, he's not going to make the play your team needs.
He's a mental midget.
Yeah, and Vegas is great for him. But listen, I'm not going to take anything away. He's having a great year.
Yeah.
You know, and here's the other thing. The pick 6 was terrible. He wasn't trying to throw it that way. He got hit when he threw the ball. It was still a terrible decision. I'm glad you brought up the Torrey Smith thing because they even said that wasn't the first read, and Carson was also expecting him to sit down in that route because he wasn't going to be able to get. You could tell as soon as he started the route with the way they dropped back in zone, he was not going to be able to get the double move and get over the top.
Correct.
So Carson was expecting him to sit down. He didn't sit down. He went towards the sideline, which brought the other cornerback into play. Carson can't get the ball there. Been broken down.
Well, he could have got the ball there.
So crazy hard throw. If he throws that, I'll say this:
he's gonna throw back shoulder.
If he throws that ball there and it gets picked off, everybody's up his ass about that too.
Yeah. Well, I think he was open. He wasn't looking for the ball.
I'll say this: the 3 biggest plays in that game were Carson's pick 6, which I will 100% concede was the worst. The second biggest play of that game was Miles Sanders' fumble on the 1 that nobody wants to talk about. You're down 7-0. Or no, they were down 0-0. You go down. You're on the 1. Like Jeff said, 10 of the first 12 plays are runs. You go right down the field, and then you fumble on the 1. Nobody's even said a word about Miles Sanders this week.
I agree with you 100%. Cottrell, any thought on it?
I mean, I just think that it was one of those games where, you know, Philly had a shot to win it. They were in the game. But it's funny that every single week we get kind of the same kind of feedback on Carson Wentz, but we're not putting things into perspective here. So look at Carson Wentz's numbers compared to Deshaun Watson's numbers a week ago. Like, just, you know, and Deshaun Watson is arguably, you know, top 5 quarterback. He's going to for sure be in your top 10. And so, you know, under those circumstances and conditions, you know, he doesn't have a great offensive line. His weapon, Alshon Jeffrey's not making plays. He doesn't have receivers who are just going crazy making these plays. And then you abandon the run. So, I mean, essentially Cleveland knows what's coming, especially in obvious passing situations. And, you know, that Philly's O-line can't block anybody. It's going to be tough. And I said this to you guys a couple of days ago, but I really think at this point, it's like Carson seeing these ghosts out there because he knows that, you know, mentally, 1, 2, I got to be expecting somebody to be right on top of me, and I have to roll out or I have to try to make this heroic play just for us to even have a chance of moving the ball up the field.
Because this isn't a Carson Wentz show, we're going to move on that comment because you were talking about player not having time to throw and seeing ghosts on the field, and Tom Brady was definitely seeing those on Sunday night. Their game of the week is the Tom Brady's Tampa Bay is playing the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, I believe. Sunday Night Football. And I think that, actually it's the 4:00 game.
It's 4, it's the national 4:00 game.
It's 3.5-point spread at Tampa Bay. Anybody give Tampa a chance to win that football game?
I love Kansas City in that game. It's one of my picks.
Okay, so
I think Kansas City wins by 10.
Control, you got any chance? What are chances for Tampa Bay?
So it's one of those games where, Tampa hasn't looked good against these better opponents. And so you just kind of got to think like maybe, one of these games, Tom's just going to have one of these games where it's like, oh, no, he's actually, not falling off of a cliff. But at the same time, it's like Kansas City really, the only team that's even tested them has been the Raiders, in all honesty. So that Tampa Bay defense hasn't been as good as we probably thought it was a few weeks ago. And for whatever reason, that Tampa Bay offense just isn't clicking as much as you would have thought, just seeing all the names they have on paper.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you 100%. I don't know how Tampa Bay wins that game. I really don't, but I don't know, man. I'm not picking the game, and I'm glad you are. I'm not picking it because it just feels weird. Like, I feel like Kansas City should be a bigger favorite, especially after everything that Tampa Bay is every time they played in prime time. Brady's 1-3 now in prime time.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm not picking the game. I just don't see a way that. I think the way Tampa keeps the game close is they need to slow the game down. They need to run the play clock. They need to run the football to Rojo and Leonard Fournette, and they need to control time of possession. I don't understand how they win the football game. Watching them,
I actually think the spread is lower because I think Vegas is giving him. I think him being there factors into that line. Like I'm picking it solely. Like I've watched Kansas City a bunch this year. I watched them last week. I watched almost the entire game with you Sunday night. Or Monday night. Sorry.
Yeah.
Tampa's defense is starting to, I don't want to say slip, but they had a couple of big takeaways in that game, but that was more Jared Goff just making stupid throws.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes ain't going to throw those passes.
And another comment about that, about the Tampa Bay game, you look at their last 4 football games. Their last 4, because they should have lost to the Giants on Monday Night Football. Then they come back and get the doors blown off by them by the Saints. Then they're losing the game at halftime to Carolina. And then they get beat by the Rams at home. Yeah. So they haven't looked good in over a month. Defense, Jeff Oswick, defense gave Brady every chance under his sun to win that game in the 4th, and he blew it.
He's 1,000. Well, we were saying the same thing. He's 1,000% correct.
Some blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while.
Oh, listen, man. He's a Dallas fan. We're just. He's always worried about Carson. Worry about Dak. You guys are about to pay him $82 million a year to play a quarterback for you. Good luck.
Let's get into NFL Pick'em. Cottrell, you want to start?
Yeah, that's cool. So I got my first game is going to be Arizona. They are 2.5-point favorites on the road against New England. Like I said earlier, I know, Gene, you're going to tell me that I'm crazy for going against the grain here and going against that 2.5-point rule, but I really like Arizona here, and that New England team isn't really, that good. Like they look good one game, then the next game they don't look too good, and I think Arizona is going to be a hard out for them, and I could see them winning by a touchdown, 10 points, that kind of thing.
So I want you to be hold on. I want you to be right on that game because I told you I like Arizona a lot, and I want Arizona to win. I'm going to give you one comment on it, and then I'll just go back to your picks. I think that Bill Belichick's going to completely outclass coaching Cliff Kingsbury in a team in a game. I'm not saying who's going to win the game.
Gene got to get his Cliff dig in.
I'm not saying who's going to win the football game because Arizona is clearly the better football team. But what I will say is that there's the biggest significant difference in the game is the fact that Belichick's a way better coach than Cliff Kingsbury.
There's credence to that.
That's fair.
Bill. What's the one thing Bill always does that everybody gets praised for all the time? He takes your best weapon away. Whatever your go-to best thing is, he finds a way to neutralize that or slow it down to a point where you have to go somewhere else.
I can't wait to watch Gilmore versus Hopkins.
You're gonna get Gilmore on D-Hop all day. That's what you're gonna get. So does Kyler beat him? What's the weather gonna be like up there? They just came. They came back from Seattle and now they're flying right back out to New England. It's a tough trip. it's a tough game, and I think the
Yeah.
line indicates that. I
What's
do like Arizona though.
Yeah, I hope that Arizona wins. I hope you're right on that one.
So my second game is going to be the Vikings at home. They're 3.5-point favorites against Carolina. Carolina looked good last week against that team, but the thing is that PJ Walker, he has some game film out now, so I think it's going to be a little bit easier for the Vikings to game plan. I know they don't have the best defense in the world, but I just feel like the Vikings are going to be the better team. They're at home. I think they're going to win that game, and it's going to be by, same thing. I could see 7 to 10 points, and, they're going to get that 3.5 point spread out of there. My third game is going to be the Saints. Oh, go ahead.
Is Walker going to start, though? Because I saw today that Bridgewater was actually cleared to play last week, and, Matt Rule was like he wanted to give him another week. So I don't know if Teddy's even start. I don't know who's starting that game.
So, by the way, I love me some PJ Walker before we even go forward.
I do too. I like
the pick, though. I like the pick of Minnesota. But to give you a comment, PJ Walker, I watched him in the resurgence of the XFL and the Houston.
Yeah.
Man, I love PJ Walker. PJ Walker, Temple quarterback.
I was into the new XFL. I was pissed.
I was too.
It was
COVID
fun.
killed that.
COVID killed it. Rock's going to bring it back.
Hopefully.
And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I swore I saw that Thielen is on the COVID list.
He is, but they're saying he's not. He didn't contract COVID. He's on the
high risk.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So he's probably.
I was going to say. I thought I saw something that said he tested positive and then he tested negative. So they were just kind of figuring out what was going on with that.
That's different. Then.
It's a false negative, a false positive.
There's lots of those in the NFL.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Lots because. What's your third game?
My third game is going to be Saints at Broncos. I'm going to take the over under in that one. It's at 43.5. I like it to hit the over in that one. Even though you have Taysom Hill there, and that Broncos defense is better than what their record shows. I just don't think that the Saints defense lately has been playing out of their mind. I don't think they're going to continue to play that well, and I also think that it's going to be Saints football, getting into the end zone and scoring points, just like how they normally win games and how they've been winning games these past few years.
I actually like the under in that game. I think it's just a slow paced game. Denver, I don't know how to your point about New Orleans offense, I don't know how many points Denver's offense is going to put up on that defense.
Well, that's Cottrell's 3 of the week. Shally, what's your 3?
I'm taking Pittsburgh over Baltimore whenever they decide to play that game.
It's a joke.
Yeah, I mean they moved it. I really don't want to get into it. I'm no Pittsburgh fan by any means. But what's happening to them this year, I think is wild. I think it's crazy. Tennessee screwed up for 2 weeks in a row. Pittsburgh lost their bye week, and then they're kind of, I don't you call it a reward, but they're the thing they were giving back was they were gonna have a really long week this week. Coming off Thanksgiving, they had 10 games between games. Now that's changed because Baltimore had a bunch of players test positive, and for lack of a better term, they're good players. So Baltimore was apparently crying to the league office about moving the game, which I don't understand because most of those players still aren't going to play. So they should have kept it prime time. But whenever they play the game, I'm taking Pittsburgh. Lamar Jackson is not playing well. The team's not playing well. Defense is starting to show holes. And Pittsburgh's just rolling. I'm taking Pittsburgh in the points.
Okay.
I'm taking Vegas to cover. They're -3. I think, again, I mean, we've talked about Vegas a lot the last couple weeks. I think
they still don't get the respect that they're due.
They don't. And
even after that Sunday night game.
But that's perfect. That's perfect for a John Gruden team because he's trust me, he's drilling that into the heads of all the people in that locker room. And they balled out, dude. They gave Kansas City again everything they could handle. They gave Patrick Mahomes
and their defense didn't practice all week.
Yeah, it was all virtual.
Yeah.
So, and they just left way too much time on the clock.
Give the Raiders their credit, man. That team's a good football team.
I promise you, nobody wants to play that team in the first round of the playoffs.
Josias just said Steelers Super Bowl team ? No, Kansas City is. Quick answer.
I can't wait for that game though.
Oh, I can't. Neither can I. I love it. But
I need that game. That needs to be the AFC Championship game.
Just like Clemson versus Ohio State.
You guys are on that boat by yourselves. And then I'm taking Green Bay. I think Green Bay played really well. I don't want to say they lost the game, but they gave that game away a little bit against Indy, who's a very good team. But I think in Green Bay going home against Chicago, who doesn't have a healthy quarterback on their roster, I think Rodgers just blows the doors off Chicago.
Okay. I have 3.
Gene.
Yeah, good.
I just wanted to throw in. I forgot. I wanted a bonus pick for this week. I like Seattle covering the spread at 5 against the Eagles, and it's not even just a dig. I actually really like that game.
Spread should be 17.
Yeah, I don't know why it's so low. I'm not picking against my team, but I get it. It makes sense. Here's my 3 picks. First one's obviously your non-sexy pick. Every one of my picks this week are non-sexy. I'm 18-6 on the season. I'm killing the NFL, so hopefully I can keep it up because I really like these 3 games. I have the under in the Pats-Arizona game. I think the way the Pats control that game, I think the way Belichick controls that game is they run the ball. The under is 49.5 or 50, depending on where you get it. Hopefully, if you wait till game time, you get it at 50. But the way Belichick will control that game is he'll run the football. Run. I like the under in that game. I think they're going to control Kyler Murray, keep him in the pocket, take away DeAndre Hopkins, and then make him beat you in another way. And I don't think Cliff Kingsbury's prepared for it. So I have the under in that game. I have the Washington football team, plus 2.5 tomorrow. I like them. I like their front 7 versus Dallas's pathetic offensive line. Last game, and you can take this as a dig, but it's not. I really like Jacksonville this week, plus 6.5. I like Jacksonville plus 6.5 over Cleveland. I don't think Cleveland has a team that's good enough to be favored by 6.5 points, especially when they have no weapons on the outside. It could be a high-scoring game down there in Jacksonville, too. I think it's going to be a back-and-forth game. Mike Glennon starting this week for Jacksonville. They're finally starting someone with some experience. So I like that game. So under Pats, Arizona, Washington football team, and Jacksonville plus 6.5. That's my picks for this week.
The Browns win?
It could be a few. I think they will, because I think that Jacksonville will give the game away at the end and let them kick a game-winning field goal because they want a high draft pick and they're trying to lose. But my point, they're my 3 picks this week. And if you follow my college pick, I'm not giving away a single point this week. All dogs. Dogs come out barking this week. Last segment we have is you got to be kidding me, man. So, Cottrell, you want to get started?
Yeah, I will. So I had a couple that I wanted to go with, but the one that I ended up choosing this week, it's got to be Cincinnati. I mean, they ruined the streak, undefeated for college football. And the fact that they were inside the 5-yard line with about 2 minutes to go and they couldn't punch it in is just a joke. Like the fact that you get 3 chances. Well, you get 2 chances from the 1-yard line, but you get 3 chances inside the 5 and you can't punch it in. And then on 4th down, you fumble the snap. I mean, I figured they were going to probably run it out anyway, but you fumble the snap. I just couldn't believe my mind. And, Cincinnati Bearcats.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Can you imagine if they recover that fumble somehow and run it back? And that's how Cincinnati loses their undefeated record.
That'd be worse than the Liberty game.
Oh God, yeah.
It would.
God, yeah. That's up there with that'd been up there with the Michigan State muffed punt thing from a couple years ago.
That was so bad.
That was awful.
So funny.
I'm going with Tom Brady. I'm going with Tom Brady and his baby-like antics for not shaking hands when he loses football games. I can't stand it. I mean, he's a Michigan guy. I love him. He's GOAT. He is all that stuff. He's now refused to shake Nick Foles' hand twice. Super Bowl one's a little bit excusable because it's a mad rush on the field. It's a mess, but he didn't do it when he beat him a couple weeks ago, Chicago, and he just walked off the field after threw the interception again. I hate people that are really good winners and really bad losers. There's no reason just to go shake the guy's hand. He's got to be better if you want to be called the GOAT all the time and you want to be that guy. And so you got to act like it all the time. You got to act like it when you win. You got to act like it when you lose. So I'm tired of his baby. If you lose a football game, go go shake the guy's hand. He deserves it. He beat you. It's really not that hard. It's not the end of the world.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Mine's the Florida State athletic director. Listen. So reserve. If you didn't know, Clemson and Florida State got canceled this Saturday. A reserve offensive lineman tested positive for COVID. Florida State's athletic director took that and ran with it. They're like, oh, we don't want to get our doors blown off with Trevor Lawrence coming back. And that's truly what I believe. And I'm going to say that. So COVID's run rapid throughout the NFL, throughout NCAA football. People have tested positive and played football games. Like, not that, they've sat out and the team still played. Clemson offered enhanced testing. They said, we'll all test extra this week to make sure. They spent $300,000 to travel the team, boarded them, the whole 9 yards, and Florida State's athletic director said, we're probably going to lose this game by 40, so we're just not going to play and use COVID as an excuse. And I think that's an absolute joke for Florida State, and their athletic director is, I'm sorry, but Florida State.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
So that's a week wrap up for week 7. I'm going to ask you guys all this favor as nice as I possibly can, and I'll give you guys the last word. Anybody that's listening to the show that's liking what we're doing, I really appreciate it. Went from 1,200 views to 14 to 18 to 25 to this week 3,500 views on Facebook alone. If you can do me a favor, if you're listening to this, download all our shows on Spotify, download us on Apple Music, and give us a 5-star review. Share our link on Facebook. Like, you have no idea how much that means to us, and we really, truly appreciate it. So I'm calling out to the listeners if you guys can do me that favor and help us continue to grow. Any final thoughts on the show, Bill?
Cheryl, you got anything? I do want to say something, but
I was just going to wish everybody out there happy Thanksgiving, you guys too. I also want to hear a lot of you guys commenting what your favorite Thanksgiving dish is, because I'm actually kind of curious about it.
Cool. Want to do favorite Thanksgiving dish?
Yeah, that mine. Oh God, all of it. It's hard. It's hard for me not to take like mashed potatoes, especially when they're homemade.
So for me, it's pie. I'm a pecan and pumpkin pie guy. I love pie.
G went straight dessert.
Dude, listen, I'm a fat kid. I have to. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody out there. Bill, what's your final thought?
No, I mean, echo that. Like, happy Thanksgiving to both you guys. Mike, happy Thanksgiving. Just like with everything that's going on in the world today, like, really take a second, like, with who you're going to break bread with this tomorrow, and appreciate the situation. I think everybody's realized a lot of things, how fast things can change and things can be taken away from you this year. So just really, really be thankful and, be happy and enjoy the day. Enjoy the day for what it is tomorrow. And just everybody have a great day. Be safe. And just have a great holiday.
I'm not topping that. So this is Wire to Wire. We're sounding off from week 7. Thank you, guys.